Some of the examples of transitioning out of sport can be impact on mental health. So dealing with depression, dealing with identity change. You know, I have been a student athlete for a really long time. Who am I? And when it comes to identity, if we don't start those conversations early, this transition becomes even more so complicated. And mental health is even more so impacted because the identity is shaken. And for those 2% that do make it to the pros, great. They're not dealing with that. Their transition is a little bit different, and the challenges with that transition are slightly different. But for the 98% who do not make it to the professional sport, that identity shift is pretty strong and can be pretty severe, even like leading to suicidal thoughts. Because if I'm not a football player anymore, I don't want to live. Or if I'm not, you know, a tennis player or a soccer player, like I'm struggling because I don't know who I am. Yes, I got this degree, but I really wanted to make it to the next level. And sometimes we experience grief, not when we lose somebody only, but when we transition, you know, like athletes who are graduating right now. There is a grief that comes along with that because the life that I've known, the life that I've had, is no more unless that particular athlete is making it to the professional leagues in their respective sport. However, there too is a sense of loss. I'm losing that part of identity as an intercollegiate student athlete or as that Division I student athlete. And so, you know, grief is a very complex process that comes along with a lot of different transitions in life, not just when we experience loss of somebody close to us. And, you know, I see it all the time, like, what am I going to do now? What is my life going to be? Well, it's okay, we're going to figure it out, but it's good that we're talking about this now, because then I as a professional can also keep an eye, okay, like what, I need to check their depression, I need to give them like certain inventories to keep track of that. Are things kind of declining, or are we managing it? And is the student athlete figuring out, where do I fit in the society now that I'm not a student athlete anymore? And not getting that attention from fans, or not getting the attention from media, that's where folks tend to struggle with, because now you go from a spotlight to nobody cares about me anymore. And it's challenging. It has an impact on mental health. It can have an impact on somebody's self-worth. It can have impact on self-confidence. Not always, it's not a norm, but those are the things that, you know, I see in my work with folks, that things kind of get skewed because of where the reinforcement was coming from, who the praise was coming from, and now they're not in the spotlight. They don't get that anymore. And if the identity doesn't support this transition, it leads to depression, it leads to suicidality, it leads to getting to very dark places that it may take a while to crawl out of. And that ties to raising the awareness, because folks may be, and I've seen this very often, folks may be so embedded in their athletic identity that when they have to transition, the mental health seems to be very impacted, because that who am I am an athlete, or I was an athlete, has been so strong that now they feel lost. And so when we think about identity, it's very easy to support student athletes in considering what other parts of identity are important to you. Folks can refer to that in a lot of different ways. It can be gender identity, it can be race or ethnic identity. Folks can also have certain identity based on their hobbies or other areas of interest. So somebody can be a basketball player and a musician. Somebody can be a tennis player and an artist, or whatever. They may be super talented in digital media or something. Okay, so that too is part of your identity. And so all these folks that are supporting student athletes, those are great questions to ask them early on. Plant those seeds. Let's support those folks who do have hobbies and strengthen that as part of their identity, so when they get to the point where they're transitioning out of intercollegiate sport, their other parts and their identity has been intersectionally merged together, that they can lean onto that and not have a negative impact on their mental health, because all they have been wrapped in was that I am a great athlete, and I am a great quarterback, and I am a great point guard, and I am a great whatever sport or position you play. Yes, you are, and you are all these other things.